Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.
Hello, this is Nick Pope, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Going to be definitely interesting, something you don't want to miss.
Hello, welcome to another show. Thank you for that intro, Nick. I think today we'll be dealing with a lot of UFO activity in the West Country of the UK. I've been looking forward to doing this show with a good friend of mine named Steve Wills. I'm also sure we'll delve into some other UFO cases and see where we go. So let me welcome to the show Steve Wills. Hello, Steve Wills. Welcome to the show.
Hello, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, nice to speak to you after all this time. I haven't spoken to you for a few months now.
No, I think the last time we actually spoke was at the conference last year at Woodbridge.
The Hawk conference, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, you and Matthew were absolutely brilliant. You did an awful lot to help. I don't think I could have done it without you two, to be honest.
Pleasure to help out, mate.
How's Matthew? Have you spoken to him lately?
Yeah, I speak to him fairly regularly on a sort of a regular basis. He's, I think he's okay. He's interested in this urbexing thing now, this urban exploring, going around, abandoned places.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his videos. They're pretty amazing, aren't they, some of the things he does?
He's well into that at the moment. So
well, as you know, I was hoping to do something else again this year, but of course, things were in the air, like chances of doing things like Jim Penniston and getting Colonel Holt maybe back over again later on this year. But everything's been put on a halt with this bloody virus thing, hasn't it? And nobody knows where they are at the moment now.
Well, that's right. The old COVID-19's put the kibosh on everything, it seems.
Yeah. In fact, I did, I don't know if you know Spiros Bolaris. We were, Spiros was going to do a presentation at Woodbridge for the alien autopsy thing. Today I've had a talk with him and we've decided to sort of cancel it till next year now.
Yeah. So, I did see that you were planning something like that. Yeah.
It was going to be August 31st, but with all this sort of, what do they call it? The social distancing and everything like that, it's not really feasible to do it in the hall, is it?
Yeah, I mean, even if you sort of got the all clear, it's going to take a couple of months for people to sort of build up I don't know, whether, stomach to sort of go out to these sort of things, don't they?
Yeah, and the thing is, I think, is the danger of people might not want to buy a ticket at this point in time because they don't know whether they can use it or what's going to happen, do they? I mean, I haven't bought any tickets for anything, because you just don't know what's going on, do you?
No, that's right. Well, pretty much all of the sort of bigger conferences they're postponed till next year now, haven't they?
Well, like Chris Evans's OLM conference, the Outer Limits conference, which was supposed to take place in September, he postponed that, a couple of months ago now, and put it up to, I think it's next August now, so it just shows you that, just things that I think we just might as well write 2020 off and hope next year's going to be better.
I know what you mean, yeah, you're right, yeah.
But anyway, Steve, I suppose we better get on with the programme because, anyway, I did sort of mention on the intro that your kind of expertise is in the West Country of the UK, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there was a very big case. Now, what year was it? The Warminster thing. Was it about 1965 or something, was it?
the warmest thing is the genesis happened around 1964 on the Christmas period. Sort of similarities to kind of Rendlesham, right? 24th of December, Christmas. So we're talking Christmas Eve. Early morning. Marjorie Bye, who was like a local housewife, was going to a church service at a church called Sanborn here in Warminster, and this is how the story goes. She was kind of assailed by this strange atmospheric anomaly, this sound, if you like. It seemed to be very focused, and kind of drove her down to her knees and that, with and that's how it started. That was the first recorded case.
What was it like? Was it like a droning sort of noise or something?
Well, it was kind of a droning sound. I mean, later on, there was also reports of people in their houses saying that it sounded like roof tiles were being lifted and then crashed back down, and it sounded like the roof stack was coming off. And other people have said, it sounded like a load of branches being dragged across the roof. And this went on for months, it went on for about 3 or 4 months. There was no UFOs initially, it was just these strange noises.
So nothing was seen at that time, kind of thing?
Not until into the sort of about 4 or 5 months in, So strange noises was heard sort of from all the corners of the town for about a duration of 4 or 5 months, and then obviously manifestations of UFOs were seen. So I mean, it was strange and quite, it's quite unique, really. You don't generally get this, if you could make a correlation with sort of poltergeist activity, don't you, with the raps, the strange noises before, But in this case, it was the noises that then pursued on to the sightings of UFOs.
Right. Did any sort of paranormal investigators get involved in that at the time, thinking it might be poltergeist activity?
Well, I don't know. There was a couple of. I mean, obviously, the kind of central figure was a guy called Arthur Shuttleworth. Now, Arthur Shuttleworth was he was a journalist, and I think he'd been a local councillor. Now, he got wind of the story of these strange noises. So, I mean, he sort of took note and wrote these down. There was another guy called Roger Holton, who lived over in a village just outside of the town called Crockettson. Now, he was kind of more along the lines of sort of not saying a paranormal investigator, but he was into all sorts of sort of esoteric kinds of things, if you know what I mean. So, but there was no real investigation per se. It was all really, I mean, it was later on, of course, when obviously when the papers heard about it, and obviously it went nationwide, and then this is when it got popular, and a lot of all the sky watchers would flock to the town. But that was a little bit later. That was in tail end. That was more in the mid 65,
Yeah.
So you had the strange noises at the start of things that manifested into sightings of what's described as cylindrical, cigar-shaped objects, elliptical, and these balls of light, which was, Arthur coined the amber gamblers, these orange, fiery kind of plasma balls.
Yeah.
Which was seen, yeah.
But the funny thing is, around, I don't know if I told you this story before, but what I saw in 1967, which is not far away from that, was a big orange oval object going across the Essex skyline.
Right, okay, yeah.
At night. I don't know if I might have told you before, I don't know. So it's kind of in that time period, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the other thing, of course, is like, with a lot of vehicle interference kind of cases came into this, where people would be driving, see this ball of light, and obviously their engines cut out. There's quite a well-known road adjacent to an area called Colloway Clump, which is a Neolithic long barrow here in Warminster. And that seems where a lot of this sort of vehicle interference occurred.
Right. Yeah, I know he wrote a few books as well, didn't he, Arthur Shuttleworth, about it?
Yeah.
Or that and other things as well.
Yeah, he wrote the first book, which kind of documented the Warminster thing.
Yeah. I think I must have read that around about 67 or something. That was probably one of the earliest UFO books I had.
That's right. Well, his first book, The Warminster Mystery, and then he went on and wrote another five other books after that as well, all recounting, Warminster sites plus other, set across, the different places as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because that area is all, for our listeners abroad, it's, that area is all like Stonehenge is all in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, so kind of an area kind of steeped in sort of, legend and lore, long barrows and hills and, stone circles and, Avebury's not particularly far away. Stonehenge is 15, 16 miles up the road, you know.
Which in the scheme of things is not far, is it? It's,
no, I mean, and of course we got the
it takes you ages to get, it takes you ages to get there on the 505, doesn't it, from one end to the other, but.
Well, it don't take me long from 303.
Was it the 303? Is there a 50? Oh, I'm getting my road numbers wrong.
Yeah, it's on the 303 Stonehenge.
Oh, right. I was thinking the 505 for some strange reason. It's only 2 out.
I don't know where you're off to.
Just only 2 out. But, and also you got a place called Cradle Hill where a lot of gatherings happen for UFOs, isn't there?
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, during that period, so once the kind of, the UFO story got out there and, there was a particular famous photo which, went out as a double centre page spread in the Daily Mirror or the Sunday Mirror, I can't remember, which, denoted the famous, Gordon Faulkner photograph.
Yeah.
So after that sort of photo went out, then, it really exploded and people would sort of descend on Cradle Hill was obviously a point where the sky watchers meet up. And, additionally there's another couple of hills one called, Middle Hill or Star Hill as the sky watchers used to call it, and, Clay Hill, which is obviously a famous hill. So so during the mid-60s, you could have, up to 50 to 80 people up there on a Saturday night,
Yeah, sure.
Because up until then, of course, there wasn't really any sort of, precedent for this certainly in the UK. A lot of people, one of the reasons Arthur's called it the Warminster thing, or labelled it that, because UFOs probably weren't particularly well known by, a British townsfolk. They just weren't in their vocabulary.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, you mentioned UFOs sort of in the mid to late 60s. You were just called a nutcase, weren't you? Well, you still are, really, but... but I think they're a lot more acceptable now, aren't they? And talked about a lot more than they were back then.
That's right, yeah. Well, just going back, during that period then, so you had all the sky watchers coming, people would see things, and of course, and so it just built up and built up. It was kind of perpetuating things as people would come along, see something, and then they tell their friends, and they'd come along, and it was all, it was very much like that for a long period of time.
Yeah, it becomes quite a big social thing, doesn't it?
Well, that's right, yeah. If and Arthur he was the guy who initially, started taking the reports, and, he sort of became, he said initially he approached it as being quite skeptical, but, he had his own sighting.
Yeah.
From his flat, so he's kind of became a believer, if you like. And he used to, obviously he used to go up to the hill, and obviously, everyone was keen to hear because he was such a central figure, people would sort of flock around him, to hear what he had to say about what's been going on, what's been seen.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't he get, because from being like a skeptic himself, didn't he become the focus of people saying that he was making things up as well at some point?
Well, I don't think anyone said he was making things up, but due to his particular writing style was very sensational, which a lot of the writers at the time were you know, a bit like, he had a kind of prose with, you know, a way with words which made things sound, you know, a certain way or more exciting than what they probably were.
Yeah, more spectacular sort of thing. I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from talking, because obviously Warminster was kind of a hotbed for, you know, believers and skeptics and New Agers alike, really. And obviously a lot of people who obviously met Arthur at the time during the 60s, they, you know, there's no one I've ever met has ever sort of had a bad word to say about him other than, you know, what a nice guy he was.
Yeah.
How, you know. Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I never met him, but I understand that he was quite a decent fellow, and people seem to like him a lot. Unfortunately, he died quite a few years ago now, didn't he? What year did he?
He died in the mid-90s, I think 90, I want to say 96, but it might be 94, but it's certainly during the mid-90s.
Yeah, like mid-90s, yeah. It's a shame, because I think he was I mean, his books were certainly very interesting. I think he's got about, like you said, about 5 or 6 books, is it?
Yeah, I think 6 books, yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I read a couple of them. I'm not sure if I've still got them there. They're collector's items now, aren't they, some of them?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you've got a hardcover of, you know, original with Warminster Mystery, it's probably worth something, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I know, they're hard to find if you look on Amazon now, because I know I did have a few, and you sort of lose track of them over the years, don't you? And, I was looking to see if I could get some, and they were really expensive to find some, you know, if you're lucky enough to find them anyway. But,
yeah, that's right. I mean, some of the old sort of classical books now, I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, a few years ago, you could probably pick them up for you know, for hardly anything, but now, if you, something like that on Amazon, they charge you through the nose for it.
Yeah, they're really silly money now, aren't they? Some of the old books, if you go looking for them, unless you're lucky to find one where somebody doesn't really know what they're selling, and you know, I've had a couple like that you can manage to get hold of at a reasonable price, you know.
Yeah, like some sort of second-hand bookshops, and you might pick it up in there.
Or you might be lucky in a charity shop or something.
Charity shop, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your area down there as well is, I'm saying that your area down there, a lot of crop circle, action goes on as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
I mean, since from the 80s, really, it became a sort of, you know, Colin Andrews obviously, coined the phrase crop circling, 83. But there were certainly circles, in and around Warminster and indeed Wiltshire prior to that. I think, you know, during the 70s and then early 70s, you know, Arthur Shuttlewood, made note of some, I mean, he called them crop circles, because people were calling them landing nests, UFO landing nests back there, yeah. But, you know, he made note of some of these so-called nests, around Cradle Hill. So that was before the sort of big crop circle, the famous, you know, obviously, since the tail end of the 1980s and going into the 90s, that's when, you know, sort of crop circles blew up, and, you know, people have been aware of them since then, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you think of them, but do you think they're all real, or some are fake? I mean, I'm pretty sure some are faked, but I'm not sure about all of them.
Well, I'm pretty sure that, you know, this is just my opinion, but I'm pretty sure most of the elaborate type of pictograms, as they called, you know, I think they're all man-made, to be honest. I think all the ones that people sort of swoon about are man-made, but I think that the devil would be in the little ones that people don't seem to notice, you know, the smaller ones, which, you know, I mean, I'm talking to, Busty Taylor, a couple of, years ago. He was sort of saying that he would just occasionally just see these small circles, you know, about 20 meter in diameter, out in the middle of nowhere. You know, you wouldn't never know it was there, you know. You know, so I mean, that might be where the real sort of the real mystery would be. But as for the big elaborate designs, I think they're pretty much man-made. But having said that, some pretty peculiar stuff's happened in and around these crop circles. I mean, balls of light have been seen floating in and out of these circles, or certainly around them.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video once on YouTube. I don't know if it was a faked one or what, but this ball of light that was skipping across the fields.
Yeah, there's certainly there's a video about Oliver's Castle, famous one, whereby you see a number of balls of light come around the field and the crop circle give. That's kind of been proven to be a hoax. But a number of people have reported sort of light balls within in and around crop circles. Some people have had what they say is healings in crop circles. Other people have had adverse effects of feeling, lightheaded and dizzy. And, again, we're talking about vehicle interference. People have had like equipment malfunctions in, phones playing up, tape recorders. We had a couple of years ago, we had a video crew come from Bournemouth to film a little snippet in a crop circle, and the sound boom kept going down.
Did it? Wow.
Yeah, and as soon as they went out of this circle, it came back up, only for them to come in again, it'd go down.
That's weird.
Peculiar, but this was a man-made circle, and for sure, so
yeah.
It's strange. I mean, and the other thing, of course, with crop circles is, the crop circle makers, a lot of people have prior to a crop circle season starting, they would be thinking, I hope a certain shape or style pattern would show, and the crop circle makers would go out and make that.
Yeah, purposely make them. Yeah.
Would make that crop circle, but that's not to say that, there might be some sort of, I don't know, what you want to call it, like telepathy sort of thing going on. Who knows? But,
yeah.
There's some sort of odd occurrences that go on, even though the vast majority, in my opinion, are man-made.
You've got to say though, I mean, doing those in the dead of night, which obviously they do, and they're away from the road, but to do them without anyone seeing, because they must have loads of lights and things to see what they're doing, surely. And,
no, they don't use lights. No. To be fair, I mean, if in Wiltshire, if you get in a good summer month, it doesn't really ever go dark. Even at.
Oh right, yeah. I suppose by a bright moonlight, yeah.
Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's obviously it gets dark, and of course your eyes will adjust somewhat. I mean, I've been privy to been filmed some crop circle makers doing their thing.
Right.
So I've certainly seen them do it, and they, the one they done, it wasn't the most spectacular one you've seen in your life, but it was pretty good, and I was quite impressed at how quick they done it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, how do they actually do it then, Steve? With they do it by lasers or something?
Some people, it really depends. I mean, the ones I saw film do it had they used a laser level like you'd have have on a building site. So they used a laser level. They had long surveyor's tape. They had marker metal spikes to mark certain positions.
Yeah.
And they a couple of them had obviously looked like a bit of broken off pallet with a rope on it, so that was their stomping board. And one of them actually had what looked like a folded up old mattress with a rope on it. So, but they done it all right, and it was pretty good. So obviously, I mean, if me and you went out and done one last night, tonight, I don't think it'd be particularly good. But obviously,
probably not. Not if I ever do it.
These people are obviously, honed at it and pretty good, aren't they? So,
yeah. I mean, we do see in books the stems of the corn or the crop. They grow strangely after some of these landings or supposed landings. Now, are they the ones that are real, or are they faked as well?
Well, I don't think they're faked. I think there's is it photokinesis or something? It's when the plant, they're bent down, but then they try growing again, and obviously what they were saying was blown nose, this is what they described.
Mm.
And of course the people who were saying this, which was this, Dr. Levengood, who ultimately wasn't a doctor, so he didn't have all the credentials he made out he did. So, I mean, it's
strange that these people come up with these credentials and they haven't really got these credentials, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you had Professor Glittman. Sadly, Michael Glittman died, I think, last month or month and a half ago.
Mm.
But initially he came out as a professor, and obviously he wasn't no professor, and Dr. Levengood wasn't a doctor, so.
I think I'm going to start calling myself Dr. David, I think.
Yeah. But these were the people who were pushing this blown nose theory,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting stuff though. It still amazes me how they do it though. It's pretty clever stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good, yeah. I mean, I think there was a big spectacular one near what they call, Anstey area near Salisbury, last year. Huge one. I think Matthew actually filmed them making that. They made that over a couple of days.
Yeah, because Matthew knows. Sorry, go on.
I mean, some of the big, more spectacular ones aren't normally always done on one night. Some of them are taken multiple evenings.
Oh, right. Do you reckon that's good? That's why they sort of take it further away from the road, I suppose, so they're not actually seen at the time. Yeah, so they can go back to it. Yeah,
well, Matthew used to be a crop circle maker.
I know, that's what I was going to ask you. They told me a bit about it.
Yeah, Matthew used to be a crop circle. As far as I know, is still the first and only person ever to be caught and prosecuted over it. So.
Oh, really? I think there's something in the book I've got here. I think a couple of other people were done for it as well.
Well, it might be right. I mean, this was when it all happened. When it obviously all happened for him, he was the first at the time, but you might be right, someone might have
now
subsequently been caught.
Well, I've got a question there then. What crime are you actually committing?
Well, it'd be trespass in the first instance.
Oh, well, I suppose trespassing, maybe, yeah.
Trespass and then criminal damage for whatever, how much of the crop you're laying down, which obviously ultimately couldn't be used.
Yeah, but I suppose really that's the only thing you're breaking, isn't it? As far as that goes.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what sort of fine Matthew had. I don't think it was, huge, but, he's, subsequently hung up his, stomping board now.
Yeah, he gets involved in other things, I know. But,
he still goes out and films them all, he goes up with his drone and it flies all the crop circles just to document them now, but, I think it's like I say earlier, he's more involved in his, urban exploring, as they call it.
Yeah. Well, now you've got another character over you that way, Mr. Peter Paget, who worked the, UFO UK and the, Welsh Triangle.
Yeah, well, Peter Paget used to run a UFO centre in the town back in the 70s. Place down the avenue, which was basically offered. It was a research centre, come bed and breakfast sort of thing,
Yeah.
And he was there for a couple of years before. Again, he was someone who became a focal figure in the town. He was doing his own newsletter, the Fountain Journal, and then he was only there a number of years, and then obviously he left to sort of follow the things that were going on in southwest Wales, which then went, he wrote the book, the Welsh Triangle.
Yeah, and the UFO UK is another one of his, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a bit later. I think that was about 1980 time, I think. But
yeah, he's another interesting character, though.
Yeah, he doesn't live around here. I don't know where he lives now. I think he's been all over the place.
No, that's right. No, I think he does. He has moved about a bit, hasn't he? But, I just kind of wonder what you make of, well, I'm not going to ask you your opinion of, his character or anything, but, do you think most of what he's, written about has been, serious sort of thing?
Well, I think, especially at the time, I think you could sort of you could probably say that the book he wrote, the Welsh Triangle, was pretty good portrayal and accurate.
Yeah.
But, I think going, in latter years when he's kind of resurfaced, because he obviously disappeared for 20, 30 years, he's sort of come back with with kind of a new sort of progressive, different outlook to things.
Sort of like a new persona, wasn't it? He's materialised as. Yeah,
different persona, claiming he was a secret agent and.
Yeah, well, that's why I didn't really want to go down that road. But I mean, what do you make of all that?
Well, I don't think he was ever.
I mean, we're entitled to our opinions, aren't we? It's I do find a little bit of that outlandish, to be perfectly honest about that.
I have actually read that book, and to be honest, I don't think it rings true. But other people might think it does, and obviously that's up to them, isn't it? But,
yeah, I think I've got a Kindle version of it, and I've never really read it. I had a glance through it, and
Yeah, there's quite a few outlandish claims in there, what he'd done and what he was doing, and this sort of thing. But yeah.
Because I mean, there's no secret of it. I mean, we believe that he was in the paper for something else as well, wasn't he? But
yeah. Well, he was he was, and he was obviously charged and obviously served his time.
Well, no, he says that he was framed by MI6 or something, wasn't it? But I don't know. make of that as what you will.
Well, I think he actually claimed that he actually claimed that he fought the case and won the case, but he never had a trial. He just admitted being guilty to it, didn't he? So there was never a trial where he fought it and won. I seen him at a conference when he had like a bundle in his hand and said, "This is the solicitor's bundle, and I fought the case and I won it," but he never fought the case because he just pleaded guilty. So.
Right, yeah, so it's a little bit of BS there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid there's quite a bit of that, isn't there, in this subject?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, plenty of it.
Yeah.
But...
I mean, you and I know Chuck quite well, Colonel Holt.
Yes.
Just recently, a book's come out by Nick Redfern.
Yeah.
I know you haven't read it yet.
I've read Nick Redfern's new book.
Oh, you have read it? No, it's all right. It was me that started it out a bit. I was talking about the other one. That's right. What do you make of it?
Well, I think obviously, Nick's a prolific author, isn't he? And he, he writes 3 or 4 books per year, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but there you go.
No, I don't know, but, it's a ballsy book, really, and I say that in as much as a lot of people have had we just have to say that his take on it is that this was some sort of secret experimentation, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose we ought to mention, in case we got lost here, it's the Rendlesham 1980 UFO event in Suffolk. I think I left that bit out in case nobody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, I knew what you were talking about, but your listeners might not. But and the new book's called the Rendlesham UFO Conspiracy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it for what it was, and what it was a book that perhaps needed writing. I think there'd been a lot of people alluding to such a thing.
Yeah.
Previously, I think Jenny Randalls had mentioned it in a couple of paragraphs in one of her books. I think it might have been Out of the Blue. Georgina Brunei had mentioned it in, subtly in her book. You can't tell the people. And I think a couple of other sort of investigators had this information before, but perhaps didn't want to use it because they didn't want to be seen to go against the grain. So, fair play to Nick for actually sort of putting it out there, whether it's right or not. At least, all the cards are turned over on the table, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I have actually talked to Chuck about it a little bit. He wouldn't give too much away, but he seems to think that that it definitely wasn't that. And he's got evidence to say that it wasn't that. But he didn't tell me any more. So Well, I know
Well,
John. One of the people that was involved in it, John Burrows. He's been somewhere along that line as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think John has been pursuing something along the same lines. I don't know if it exactly parallels what Nick was saying. Of course, Nick was, I mean, clever. I mean, what Nick's right about, of course, in that book is that, you know, he's looked at Rendlesham in context. So he's looked at the landscape, the area,
yeah.
how that particular area was important to Britain during the war effort and continued through the Cold War. You know, I mean, you got your RAF bases and radar areas and all sorts of stuff was going on. And
oh yeah,
you know,
I'm sure there was loads of stuff going on that nobody knows about. I'm sure of that.
Well, exactly. I mean, you had a lot of places that had these primary and secondary, you know, where perhaps some of this experimental stuff was going on. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think what Nick says, the crux of what Nick says is that there was some sort of laser projection, and there was some sort of what they called the Kugel Blitz, which was this ball lightning thing going on, which experimental thing which was going on there. Additionally to that, there was also, he says that Porton Down was heavily involved in, you know, perhaps coming along and, you know, dousing the forest with hallucinogens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, it's, quite heady stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what I've found a little bit, I mean, I've dived in and out of the book a little bit, the next book. I think what I found a little bit amiss is there's not enough documentation inside it. You know, there's just a couple of sheets, isn't there? And he's supposed to have looked at such a lot of it.
I think most of it, as he says, comes from testimony from Ray Boucher, who was a US researcher who was quite instrumental in the earlier part of the Rendlesham Forest investigation. I think he was over here certainly doing inquiries and talking to people around 84. So he was on it quite early, and it's his testimony that from these two guys who said they were working there and doing this stuff. This was in relation to the ball lightning and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's who knows, isn't it? I mean we don't know.
I mean there's obviously things that even Chuck Holt might not even know himself, or you know, been going on.
I think this is what Nick's saying. I mean, how would they know if they were, you know, if they'd been, you know, doused with hallucinogens?
Yeah.
You know, or
there's also this thing about need to know, isn't it? It doesn't matter how high up you are. If you don't need to know something that's going on, then you're not involved in the loop, are you?
No, but I mean, it would be very. I mean, the other thing is, of course, is the radar tracks and all that.
Yeah.
There was stuff going on there where they were doing previously Project Palladium, where they were ghosting these signals so they could fool radar and all this sort of thing. So I mean, you know, it kind of gives us an explanation, but whether or not that's the answer, I mean, I don't know. I don't tend to think it was the answer. I think what they experienced was probably truly anomalous. I mean,
yeah. Well, I was just about to say, I was going to put you on the spot there. I was going to say, what do you actually think it is, Steve?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I might be wrong. I mean, Nick might be right, but yeah, for me, I think it goes some way to explain some of the stuff, but I don't think it explains all of it. And of course,
I agree with you.
And of course, you know, we know Rendlesham is kind of a window area for this sort of stuff, and subsequent stuff has happened.
Oh
now,
yeah, absolutely. It's still
during the 80s and obviously, you know, in more modern times, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a weird place to be, isn't it? I mean, I've been up there several times, as you know, and you do see some strange things at night. And in fact, I'm supposed to be going up there Tuesday, depending on the weather. So see what pictures I get up there. But yeah, I've seen some funny things at night. We've seen stars move and stop and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lovely. I mean, obviously, I've been, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I mean, obviously, I'm quite a way away from Rendlesham, but It's a lovely place in the sunny day to have a walk, but come the evening, going in like, it does take on a bit of a different sort of area sort of feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and very easy to get lost in as well.
Yeah, no, I should imagine. Yeah, I just stuck close to Brenda.
yeah, Brenda Butler. Yeah,
Brenda Butler. Yeah, so I didn't
dear
get
old
lost.
Brenda. Yeah. Because we've mentioned it a couple of times. Brenda Butler's the one that wrote Sky Crash, which was the first book on Rendlesham. And I found out by reading Jim Penniston's book, that all the information that she was fed for that book by J.D. Ingalls, basically, who was actually Steve Roberts, was basically bum information.
Yeah, it had a lick of truth, but the most part, it was all like nonsense.
Yeah, and this is where Larry Warren basically got all his story from.
Yeah, but I mean, fairness to Dot and Brenda, and they were only pursuing the story, so
no, of course, it's not their fault if they were fed bum information. They, that was the idea. The disinformation is the proper term for it. But Jim actually lays it all out, because this J.D. Ingalls was actually, I think was he a colonel or general or somebody? He may have been a colonel, I think.
I don't think he was a colonel.
Was he a lieutenant colonel? I'm pretty sure he was an officer anyway.
He might, I want to say sergeant, but I don't know. I'll have to double check.
I might be giving some disinformation myself, but he certainly wasn't a basic airman, I don't believe. But he was giving this information out, and Jim lays it all out, because this J.D. Ingalls actually told Jim all about it, because Jim was actually, after this event, he was actually involved in a lot of the information gathering on the base as well. And, it's quite an involved book to read, the Rendlesham Enigma, but it does lay it all out for you, how that story got out.
So, so if it was a disinformation campaign, obviously that was being led and obviously pursued by someone or people or whoever.
Yeah, that was obviously put out by the upper, let's call it the upper management of Bentwaters and Woodbridge to actually take the heat off of the actual story itself.
There's another part in Nick's book, and obviously it's in Jenny's book, about the information when Jenny Randalls went to get the radar information. They said that at the time that it was they very easily just gave the information over freely, and at the time when they relayed what had happened, they sort of said these people came to pick it up, and they asked specifically for the UFO information, which seems a bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You hear of, it was almost like they wanted to impart this UFO story.
Yeah, definitely. But now, we mentioned John Burroughs. Now, just recently he was on a Jimmy Church show, Fade to Black.
Yeah.
And now he's been, in the past, criticised, very critical of Jim Penniston's, they came from the past, they came from our future, or time travelling, part of the story, which he seems to, that's his theory. Now, John seems to be coming out with that same theory now, mixed in with all the technical stuff.
Right. Okay. Well, I've not heard him say that.
Yeah, it was on if anyone out there can get hold of this show, it's on the John Burroughs Fade to Black show, May the 7th, 2020. And on that, you could hear him say a couple of times he believes they're from the future. So, I don't quite know what to make of that, because he's been sort of quite against Jim's story all these years, telling him that. Yeah.
That would be a kind of turn of events, because he seemed to be quite strongly opposed to that.
Yeah. This is what I can't quite make out, because he's been very adamant that Jim was making things up, and now all of a sudden he sort of seems to have changed his tune on that. Although he's using it, from what I picked up on the show, he seems to be using that they came from the future, but that the Air Force were actually using these technical all the stuff, the technical stuff, to actually get in touch with interdimensional people from the future, or and they're actually manufacturing it themselves. So I don't know what to make of it, but as I said to you just before the show, it's getting interesting anyway as to what's going on.
Yeah, well, Rendlesham's always interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ever developing, isn't it? It's ever
developing. I mean, some people over the years have sort of suggested it's quite toxic, sort of case, with all the falling outs within, some of the part, different
but I mean, a lot of that's been caused by just one person, really, to be honest. But I don't actually, I think the thing is, it's such a complex case, isn't it? And people seem to have seen things, kind of differently anyway. Because it was over 3 nights, you get these various stories, and then you got people who don't want to talk, and you got other people who want to talk too much about it, and there's other people, just won't come forward and don't even like to have their name mentioned, I mean, even Colonel Holt didn't want his name coming out on it, did he?
Not initially, no, he didn't, no. He thought that was the end of his career, didn't he, when all that came out?
And then the memorandum came out, which was actually got out by J.D. Ingalls. He was really the whistleblower. No, sorry, no, it wasn't J.D. Ingalls. It was actually the News of the World, the investigators, wasn't it?
Well, no, I think, what's his name? The guy who wrote, what's his name?
Yeah, I can't think of his name either. I can't think of his name either.
Larry Fawcett.
Larry Fawcett.
Yeah. Larry Fawcett and Barry Greenwood.
That's right. Well, they're really the ones that got the.
They were the ones who got the memo and forwarded it on to Dot and a few other people.
That's right. But then saying that, the real, the real first military whistleblower for that was actually J.D. Ingalls, which is actually known as Steve Rogers in the book.
Steve Roberts, he was the one who was the first person talking of a UFO story.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's right.
Yeah. But, I think Chris Peniston had heard something as well around the same time.
Yeah, that's right. There's been a few names that have been made up over the time, and I think that's kind of what's confused a lot of issues as well. Who are the right names and who are the wrong names? I think a lot of that caused a lot of confusion in the early days, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you've got different pseudonyms and, people obviously not wanting to go on the record.
Yeah, and then people being forced to come forward because of the disinformation coming out, which is the reason Jim came out in the first place with Chuck. And apparently they wanted to come forward because of all the disinformation that was coming out via J.D. Ingalls and then Larry Warren getting on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, I've not actually read the new Rendlesham Enigma, but I mean, I've still got that to read. I mean, it's a big old tome, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Now, I've got to say that Colonel Holt's got a few issues with it. He mentioned that on the show that I did with him last September. I understand he's going to come back on the show again at the end of the year, hopefully for a 40th anniversary special. But before that, I've got Gary Osborne coming on, hopefully, at the end of August, I think it is. And I've also got later in the year, I've got Nick Redfern coming on, so we might get a few different versions of what's been going on before the end of the year.
Yeah, you'll have it from all angles, won't it?
And then hopefully, I'm hoping that I can get Jim Peniston back on in February, when the second book comes out, which I think is going to be out sort of round about then, I should think. So hold on to your hats, because I think it's not finished yet.
So the Rendlesham Enigma is going to be a 3-part book, is it?
I'm not sure if it's 3, but it's certainly 2, isn't it? Because the second one's on its way. I'm not sure if it's going to also be another. I mean, that will be a hell of a lot of pages involved in that. If it is, because I mean we're up to nearly 800 pages now on that, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it definitely is a big old book.
And a lot of the print is very small as well. You need a magnifying glass to read it in the notes.
That's just your age, Dave.
Yeah, it is that as well. And trying to read at night. Yeah, I know. Anyway, thanks for being cheeky. Anyway, Steve, what about some of your own experiences? What have you experienced over the years?
Well, I mean, many of us, obviously, from, obviously Warminster and different points of Wiltshire, we've been up on Cradle Hill and seen, not massive, not anything spectacular, but we've seen like peculiar, anomalous lights. Pretty much how you described stuff, moving around and fading out, very transient, quick phenomena.
Yeah, have you ever seen, the ones I've seen, certainly up at Rendlesham, you see a star, you'll notice it, then it'll start moving, then it'll stop again, and then move and stop again.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that. I mean, I've seen stuff which is closer proximity, if you know what I mean. Sort of, I suppose, say 1,000 feet in the air, perhaps, sort of, again, something lighting up and then flittering out again. We've seen that many times. We've also had odd stuff happening up at Cradlehood. There's an area called the Barn area, which is, a barn.
Yeah.
It's, but we've had, obviously during going back to the 60s, there was reports of what Arthur called the invisible walker.
Right.
And what people were describing were heavy sort of footprints, foot stomps walking along this gravel path with obviously nobody there in the vicinity. People have, they sort of felt like hot breath down the back of their neck, this sort of thing. Well, we were up on doing a sky watch, I guess. How long ago was that now? Got to be, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago, 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And we heard these sort of stomp marks. And additionally to that, we had stones rattling at the bar, being thrown at the barn.
Oh, right.
And this was at 1 o'clock in the morning, so there was no one. I mean, you have to factor in the fact that someone might have been hiding in the bushes.
Yeah, kids playing about or something, yeah.
But it's not likely, and obviously we couldn't see anybody, but of course it's pitch black. But yeah, that was peculiar, and we had stones being thrown, and, somebody would open up a thing and say, go on then, throw a stone and that, and then bang, one of it, obviously none of the people there were throwing them, we were all quite close to the barn, but yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
So, and that's happened a couple of times up there.
I mean, some people would put that down to, like ghostly phenomena as well, wouldn't they?
Well, it's kind of like, type of poltergeist, or what they call like a wilderness poltergeist sort of, type activity, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, in my mind, I think a lot of that's connected anyway, like the paranormal, like interdimensional stuff.
Well, it's curious if it isn't, because it's right on an area which, countless people had UFO sightings back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously some crossover or correlation there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. So what are your most favourite cases, do you think? I mean, I imagine Warminster is pretty close to your heart, being in your sort of area. But
I mean, it's obviously sort of cases which are kind of local to me, and you're quite right. I mean, obviously the Warminster case, when we talk about Warminster, we're talking about a whole raft of different UFO sites.
Yeah.
We're not talking about one particular case. But I guess I kind of like in British context, I like the Joyce Bowles, Ted Pratt Winchester case, which was the lady and a chap who were driving on the outskirts of Winchester. She saw a UFO come down and obviously had this kind of close encounter with occupants. So that's one of my favourite ones. But there's loads, isn't there? I mean, you can rattle them off all night. But I mean, the British cases, which is primarily my interest. I mean, obviously I look at, some of the stateside ones, obviously.
Yeah, well, they tend to be the ones we hear most of, don't they?
Yeah. Well, that's why I sort of intentionally sort of drive more along the UK sort of side of things, because, because we're in a position to potentially research and investigate these properly. So it's not just a TV special telling you about it. We can actually sort of get boots on the ground and get down there and see what sort of things have been going on.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I know on some of those shows you do see some inaccuracies, don't you? I mean, obviously, I do see inaccuracies sometimes when you get Rendlesham things come on.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, you know, we've got to remember that TV specials and that are for entertainment, and therefore, I guess, for the general public who probably have very little knowledge of, you know, or none at all about that case. So they, you know, obviously they take everything as read, don't they? But I mean, of course, they've got to kind of straddle these two worlds whereby, you know, yes, it's got to be, you know, a documentary about the thing, but also entertaining for the viewer. So.
Yeah. I mean, that recent show that was on about, was it, I can't think what the thing was called now. Unacknowledged or something, was it? But anyway, there was a thing on there about Rendlesham, and they actually mixed, as far as Rendlesham goes, they mixed Colonel Holt's event in with the John Burroughs and Jim Penniston event, and I thought, well, that's not right, is it?
Yeah, I think you were talking about, was it the Unidentified show?
Unidentified, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. I noticed that as well.
You
yeah,
did, did you? Yeah. And,
yeah, I mean, sometimes you know, the shows, the editing side of it gets done, you know, obviously sometimes the edit wrong, don't they? But I mean, I don't know, but you're right, yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, because they had Colonel Holt obviously doing...
They made it sound as though it was one whole event.
Yeah, that's right. They had Colonel Holt doing an interview, but obviously he didn't know how they were going to mix it into the show, because I'm sure he would have set them straight on that it wasn't the same night, you know. But of course because it's all done separately, and then it's all edited, like you say, in the end. But when it goes out, it really gives a false picture, doesn't it? You know.
No, I mean, currently you've got, I mean, I don't know if you've been watching, they've got this Skinwalker Ranch
yes,
TV
I have,
series
yeah.
on the History Channel, which is, I mean, it's very watchable, and it's, you know, it's good. I mean, it's good in terms of, you know, you've got, you know, the new owner, the Brandon Fugler, who owns this Skinwalker Ranch with these scientific team looking into anonymous goings on there, but of course it's overly dramatized for TV, you know, and, you know, you, like I say, you've got to kind of straddle two worlds, you know, thinking that it is a, you know, ongoing scientific investigation, but, you know, I think in some ways it's a little bit contrived.
Yeah, they make it a bit dramatic, don't they? I know what you mean.
They make it over dramatic, and they all kind of follow the same sort of formula, like, you know, the ghost shows do and all that, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the best we can hope for, I guess, at the moment. But they're, you know, they're very popular, and the History Channel seems to be having a plethora of these types of shows.
I mean, you can't, I mean, I wouldn't knock them for that. I mean, I like things like, Ancient Aliens. I love all that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the interest levels are there, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I think the good thing about those things is it takes you to places you'll never ever get the chance to go and see. Well, not all of them anyway. You know, you might get a chance to go and see one or two of them, but they do take you some amazing places, and the photography is fantastic. That's what I like about it. And also, they give you the story of what's supposed to have happened there. And but there's certainly some amazing things that just don't make sense, isn't there, when you look at Ancient Aliens. I'm not saying it's all what they say, but they do certainly make you think. I mean, that was one of the earliest things that made me think, the Chariots of the Gods, back in the...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, that, you know, that show, obviously, because it's run so many years now, they kind of got to steer it in slightly different direction for each episode.
Yeah, I think it's up to about 12 years now, hasn't it been running?
I reckon it must be something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's been going a good 10 years, I know that.
Yeah, I think they're up to season 12 at the moment on the History Channel.
Right.
But, and no doubt there'll be a season 13.
No doubt, yeah, you're probably right.
Anyway, so I suppose let's go right back to the, what's your thoughts on Roswell? I always like to try and get people's thoughts on Roswell. What do you think happened?
Well, I mean, obviously something came down there, didn't they, in 47, but, you know, what it was, you know, there seems to be, you know, I used to think it was set in stone that, you know, that flying saucer had come down there, but the thing that, you know, over the years kind of detracts away from it is, that, you know, it's the amount of these kind of so-called deathbed confessions, and also there just seems to be so many of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
And taking you in a slightly different direction each time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still think that something extraterrestrial or maybe even interdimensional. I mean, something was there was some sort of a strange anomaly there. I mean, we do hear the stories about all this, the back engineering going on with, and the fact that they found lasers and all that sort of stuff, and that's where lasers were developed from.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously a lot of that comes from the Corso book, didn't it? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, there's been a lot of sort of detractors to that, hasn't there? I mean, it's kind of, it's where you kind of sort of pay your money and take your chance and sit where you need to sit. But, you know, I mean, obviously, what we can say about it is, you know, obviously something came down. There was some sort of retrieval. There was some sort of cover-up. Now, was it this, obviously they said it was Project Mogul, didn't they, ultimately, which was these
yeah, I don't go along.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it was
that.
That
thing about the crash test dummies, I mean, that was about 10 years later, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. I think that's what they said, wasn't it? That they said that the bodies were found at the scene were nothing more than these crash test dummies, but I don't think they actually came into play till many years after.
Because that's the things that makes me suspicious, because they keep they've changed their story over the years to try and cover for.
Yes, they have. Yeah, they definitely have.
And what I think one of the biggest telling things for me also, the fact that when they released that story that a UFO had crashed that day also, and then they retracted it the day after. I mean, surely that was an atomic base there. They weren't that stupid, surely, that, you know, to give a story out like that and then retract it. You know, they must have known what they were looking at in the first place.
Well, they put it out and then, as you say, they retracted it. I mean, it went out in a couple of newspapers, didn't it? And obviously it went out on their local radio. And
then General Ramey, he reined it in, didn't he? And said that's got to be. And then they made a fool of the officer that put it out there.
Jesse Marcel. Yeah.
But anyway, because I mean, he was adamant that is what it was, isn't it? And he stuck to that story all his life.
He stuck to that, and of course his son, his young son, obviously he's died now. Obviously, passing the time. Marcel Jr. Obviously he actually looked at some of this stuff, what his dad sort of brought home, and you know the way he described it doesn't sound like balsa wood and a bit of foil, does it? Right. Really?
Well, there were a few other people that were spoken to as well, weren't there? Said this stuff. You scrunched it up in your hand and it unpearled and everything. But like you say, I mean, even Colonel Corso. I mean, he actually had a job in the Pentagon. Was he really making all of that up? I mean, I don't know.
He was on a committee. I think he was on a subcommittee, but I don't know. I mean, initially when that book came out, because he wrote that. Co-authored that with Bill Burns, who used to be on the
UFO Chasers or Hunters,
UFO Hunters TV show, and used to do US UFO magazine. I think initially he kind of when he came under some heat because I think Corso suggested that he hadn't said half the things that you've ultimately got put in the print, but
oh right,
I don't know. I mean,
it was exaggerated, was it? I mean, it was a really interesting book, I must say. But
he did say that initially, but then they did like a re-edit or something, and it was the same sort of things were in it. So
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's a beguiling case, and obviously one that's kind of the centre stone, if you like, isn't it? The capstone of the UFO movement, if you like, and whether we'll ever find out ultimately what did come down there, I don't know.
No, as I say, we're all just as wise, aren't we, after all these years? But there you go. Anyway, Steve, I won't ask you what you got planned, because none of us can make any plans at the moment, can we? With all this lock-in and everything.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've plenty of downtime, but obviously getting out there and doing stuff. at the moment it's a bit of a no-no.
No, because I mean,
yeah.
there's, I mean, as far as conferences and things go this year, I think we've had it, haven't we? Really?
I think so. I mean, I know a number of the sort of conferences are looking to go digital, aren't they, and do these kind of, big conferences via, computer streaming services now. So that's probably one way to go. But obviously, you're obviously not going to get the sort of atmosphere and the sort of networking like you could get at a conference.
But that is one good thing for the likes of us, isn't it? The internet and people, plenty of people to speak to, so it keeps us occupied, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this whole COVID thing came in the 80s, it cost a fortune, wouldn't it? People to ring people up.
Yeah, would you think about it that way? Yeah.
Telephone bills in the 80s were horrendous.
Oh my God, yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, like you say, we can talk to each other for nothing now, but, there you go. Anyway, Steve, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you for coming on, and thanks for finding the time.
No problem. Absolute pleasure, David. Anytime.
Yeah, it's gone quick, isn't it, this bit of time? It's,
very
interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Don't forget, if you're ever coming down this way again, if you want to go for a walk up to Rendlesham, give us a shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely will do. Yeah, definitely will.
All right. Anyway, you take care, Steve, and enjoy. I understand you're going back to work shortly.
Yeah, the next week or so I'll be back at it. Yeah, so I'm going to have to get used to.
You're going to make some pennies again.
Yeah, I need it as well.
Anyway, Steve, take care of yourself, mate. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Cheers, David. Right. Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Well, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Thanks for listening. Bye.
That you have these amazing cases, UFOs seen by pilots, chased in military jets, tracked on radar, but yet the chain of command just kind of shrugs its shoulders in embarrassment and says, well, what more can we do?
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.